My name is Allie and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing another book unhaul. I feel like I just did this, but I kind of was looking at my shelf and I knew that there were definitely some books that I just wanted to get rid of. It just needed to happen, so this feels a little overdue, strangely enough, but I feel like I've really been super critical about what I want on my bookshelves and what I don't want there, because books take up a lot of space and there's always new ones that I want, so it's kind of got to cycle them out a little bit. Also, I don't quite know what I'm gonna do with some of these books just yet. There are a few that I'm I might want them in the future, but I just want them off of my shelves. So I'm kind of calling this an unhaul, but it's also kind of just a decluttering of my shelves. So the first one is just one that I feel kind of weird having on my shelves. So I think I'm gonna give this to my brother because he might want it, but it just seems like a weird random book to have on my shelves, and that is Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. And I don't really like the Hunger Games anymore. I did back in high school, but it just doesn't, it's not really something that I have any sort of emotional connection to anymore, and I don't really feel nostalgic for them. And this was actually my least favorite of the entire series, so it just feels right to kind of get rid of it and find some other maybe dystopian books that I like more. The next book is the only Owl Crate book that I have actually held on to, but I feel like it's time to kind of get rid of it because I don't think I'm ever gonna reread it again. I don't really have a super special connection to it, like I said with Mockingjay, and that is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, or Zappia. I don't really know how to say her name, but I did really enjoy this book when I read it. It's just now, it doesn't really hold any special place for me, and I can't see myself ever rereading this, and it's a huge book. It takes up a lot of space, and I think that someone else might really enjoy this more than I did. The next book is another one that I've read before, and I do really have a special connection with this book, but I can't see myself ever rereading it, and if I did, I would probably either listen to it on an audiobook or I would get it from the library, and I just don't see the need to hold on to the first book when I don't even have the rest of the series, and I don't feel the need to buy the rest of the series, and that is Wither by Lauren DeStefano. And I really loved this book back in high school. I was so obsessed with the series, it's so crazy, but I just really don't see myself ever rereading this, or I don't really feel the need to have it on my shelf. I did buy it from a book sale for $3, so it's not a huge loss, but I just don't really need it on my shelf. It just takes up space. I'm not gonna read it. I didn't even read this copy. I read the copy from my school's library, so this has no special connection for me. And yeah, I'm just not interested in this book anymore. I think there's just a lot of dystopians that I'm it was fun back in the day, but I don't really need it now. So these next three books, I kind of went back and forth whether I wanted to keep them or not. And I just felt like it was kind of time to let them go. As much as I love them, I'm not gonna reread them. They were fun at the time, and I do still really love them, but I really don't need them. I can love them without owning them. And that is the entire end half of the selection series. I don't even have the first two books. I have The One, The Heir, and The Crown. My two favorites are The Heir and The Crown, surprisingly. I really love Edelyn, but I just don't need these books on my shelf. They take up space, they're pretty dated, and I want newer books on my shelves. I don't need these ones. I can talk about them on my channel, I can talk about them on Twitter, but I don't need to have them to talk about them. But I do love this series. This doesn't mean that I hate the series. I love it to death. It is literally one of my favorite series of all time. This isn't me saying that I don't like it anymore or that I've grown out of it. It's just me saying that I've had these for a very long time and I just don't need them anymore. And I would rather have them fly off somewhere else to find a new home, and these can live on in my heart. I think it's gonna be okay. The next one is one I'm super disappointed about, but I feel like it's definitely time for me to get rid of it. As much as I hate to say it, it's Give the Dark My Love by Beth Revis, and I'm just so sad about this. Also, I do have a signed book plate in here, I think. Yes, I do have a signed book plate in here, if you can see that. But I just tried reading this book. I got pretty far into it, I think about 100 pages in, and I just ended up DNFing it because I just didn't like it enough, or as much as I thought I was gonna like it, which is so sad because I had such high hopes for this book. I really loved her series Across the Universe. Oh, that series was seriously the best. Some of my favorite books, but this one was just not it for me. It was just not working for some reason. It was really boring and I couldn't connect with the characters. It didn't really seem like there was any like pressing situation that was like pushing them forward. It was just pretty dull and I was really disappointed, and I think that this can find a much better home somewhere else. But yeah, I just did not like it. This next one is kind of for the same reason as the previous one, and that is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. I got about over 200 pages into this book, so quite a ways in. This isn't a very long book. And I just could not read it. Like, reading this was such a struggle, and it was basically like wading through mud. It was like so boring and slow, and it was so hard to get through, which is so sad because I really wanted to like this book. It just like, it seems like everything that I would love in a book, like mermaids, and they're like, you know, kind of evil mermaids, and it's, I wanted to like this book so bad, and I tried to force myself to like it, and I couldn't get through it. And every time I look at it to be like, well, maybe I could pick it up now, maybe I could get through it now, it's like, but do I really want to? And that question kind of made me think that it's time to let it go. And that's really disappointing. This is such a cool book with such a cool concept. It just wasn't for me, but I think that a lot of other people are going to really love this book, and I can totally see why a lot of people would love this book. It's just not a book for me, which is super sad, but I'm glad that a lot of other people love it because it's super cool, and this is such a cool concept. I love the idea of this book. I just didn't like the execution. Another book that I DNF'd is Odd One Out by Nick Stone, and I think I'm gonna have to get rid of this book. I'm still gonna keep it. I'm gonna hold on to it. I'll probably put it in the garage, but I really don't see myself ever getting into this book. I really tried, and it was super interesting at first, but there's just something about it that I just wasn't really interested in. I just didn't really like the dynamic between the two friends, and it was just not really hitting the mark for me. I think that maybe if I listen to it as an audiobook, or if I check it out from the library at some point, I will definitely finish it. But for now, I just don't need it cluttering up my bookshelves and me seeing it and being like, ugh, I didn't finish that. And yeah, I don't know, there's just something about it that wasn't clicking with me. I don't know what, because I loved Dear Martin. It was so good. I read it in one day. But this one, it was just a struggle with every page for me. And I do really love Nick Stone's writing style. I love the way that she writes teenagers, but there's just something off about this book and I can't put my finger on it. It was something I don't know. And yeah, so I'm sorry that this seems like I don't really know what it was, but I'm serious. And I feel like a lot of other people weren't super excited about this book either when they read it, so I think that it just might be the book. I don't know if it's me necessarily, because I loved her first book and I'm definitely going to follow whatever else she puts out, but this one was just not it for me. The next one is one I'd much rather listen to on audiobook, and that one is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, and I don't need this copy. I'm gonna listen to it on audiobook, so yeah, that's basically my entire reasoning for getting rid of it. The next three books are ones I've had for absolutely, like, I think since probably senior year of high school, and I still haven't read them, so I think I'm never gonna read them. Actually, I did read one of them, but the other two haven't read yet, and that is The Countess Below Stairs, The Reluctant Heiress, and A Company of Swans by Eva Ibbotson. And I don't think I'm ever gonna read these two books. I did read this one, really loved it, but I don't see myself ever rereading it. And then these two I've tried to read. I've started both of them and I've never finished them. And this has happened multiple times over the past few years, and I graduated high school in 2013. So you can see how long I've had these books, and I haven't finished them. So I think it's time to get rid of them. The next book I read and really loved, but I really don't see the need to keep it on my bookshelf, and that is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I did really enjoy this book. I can't see myself ever rereading it. And I'm not a huge Rainbow Rowell fan, so I don't really see the need to have it on my shelf. I do have Carry On, and I'm really excited to read it, but I don't feel like I need to hold on to Fangirl. So I'm glad to take it off my shelf, and hopefully it'll find a better home. The next book is one I've also had for years and years and years, and I've never picked up. And I feel like even though it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book, I don't need to hold on to it. And that is The Kingdom of Little Wounds by Suzanne Kokol. And this book is gorgeous, and it needs to find a better home. I'm so interested in what this book is about. However, every time I'm like, what should I read? I never even think about this book. It never crosses my mind. And even when it does, I'm like, should I read it? Nah, no, I'm not gonna read it today. Nah, doesn't sound like something I want to read. So it's gonna go, it's gonna leave. And I feel so sad getting rid of this, but I feel like it's necessary because there are so many other fantasy books I really want to read, more than this huge giant book that I don't really know what is about. And it's gorgeous, but I just can't keep holding on to books that I have for years and years and years and never pick up, because that's not really great. I have so many other books that I want to read before I read this one. And then the last two books are also dystopians that I read way back in the day, and I don't really need to hold on to them. Even though I really love this series, I just don't need it. And that is Divergent and Allegiant by Veronica Roth. And I don't know where my copy of Insurgent is, but I do know that I lost the dust jacket for Insurgent, so it doesn't really matter. And I read these two copies. These are like my original copies, and as much as I love Divergent, I really hate Allegiant. So it just feels right to get rid of them. I don't need them on my shelves. I'm never gonna reread Divergent. I've reread it multiple times. I don't need to reread it again. It's not my kind of series anymore, as much as I love Divergent. So yeah, it just feels like it's time to get rid of a lot of my dystopians that I don't really read. Alright, so those were the 17 books that I unhauled today, and I'm sorry if this wasn't like the most in-depth and detailed unhaul. I just really wanted to get rid of a lot of these books, even though a lot of them I have read and loved or enjoyed. I just don't need to hold on to a lot of these books that don't hold like a specific special place in my heart. Like, a lot of these books on my shelves are super important to me, or I haven't read them yet. So that's kind of what I want to keep on my shelf. If I've kind of like rated it like a 3 or 4 stars, they're not like super special to me or super important. Sometimes the 4 stars are, like, it just really depends. It's like a case-by-case basis. But yeah, I'm really glad that I'm getting rid of a lot of these books, and I just need to make space for newer books. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!